In this session, we are going to talk about the target group and application load balancer. First, we are going to see what is the importance of target group, how to create a target group, and how to associate that target group to the application load balancer. And in the second part of this particular session, we are going to perform a demo where we are going to spin up some EC2 instances. And then on top of that, we are going to create a target group, and then we are going to associate those target group with our application load balancer. Now the question comes, what is target group? So target group will help you to forward your request with the help of port and the protocol. So here onto the diagram, you can see there is one target group which I have created within the subnet. So this is the subnet and this is the target group I'm talking about. And this target group consists of two EC2 instances, which is this one and this one. So in a target group, there can be more than one resources, and this time the resources are EC2. So target group is responsible for forwarding the request on the particular port. So these are the EC2 instances, and here some services will be running. And let's assume that that service is running on a port 80 on both the EC2 instances. So this target group will first choose like on which port I need to target or which port I need to forward the request, so which is port 80. And then secondly, it will also take a look like which protocol I need to use. So I'm just going to use the protocol HTTP over here. So that's the basic purpose of our target group in our AWS cloud. Now you might be wondering that why we are using the application load balancer along with our target group. So application load balancer will ultimately forward that request to the target group, and then target group will forward that request based on the port and the protocol to the requested resources. So for that, application load balancer will be using the listeners, which you can see over here. So we need to create an application load balancer, and that application load balancer will depend upon the listeners, and from that listeners, the request will be forwarded to target group. Don't worry, I'm just going to show everything into the demo, but here these are the core concept which you need to understand. So this is how it will happen. So request will originate from the user to the application load balancer. The request will then go to application load balancer, and then it will check for the listeners which is present into our application load balancer, and there it will find a configuration which is responsible for forwarding the request to the target group. And once the request reaches the target group, then target group will check how many resources I have in my group. So there are a couple of resources which is EC2 instances which is present over there. Then target group will gonna check like which port it has been requested. So there it is gonna make a check on a port, and then after that it is also gonna make a check on the HTTP protocol. HTTP, I'm just taking an example, but there it is going to make a check on the protocol. And once everything is satisfied and all conditions are matched, then request will eventually end up on this EC2 instances. And since this EC2 instances are more than one, so requests will end up in a load balanced fashion. So if there are more request on a particular EC2 instance, then it will automatically divert it to another EC2 instance. So this is how a request will originate from a user. It will go to application load balancer. There it will find a listener. Then from the listener, it will go to target group, and then target group from there it will reach to its end destination. Let's start with the demo, and here I will start everything from the scratch and I will break everything into the steps. So here you can see we need to create two EC2 instances into our target group. But before that, we first need to create our EC2 instance. So here, this is the logical grouping I'm showing onto this diagram, that I will eventually be creating a target group where I will be adding these two EC2 instances. But before that, there is also one more thing which we need to remember, that we will also need an application load balancer. Okay, so these are the minimum things which we will need, but we not only create these resources, but we also need to know like in which subnet and which VPC we are going to create these resources. So for that, we are just going to create a subnet. The subnet I have already created, but I'm just going to show you like in which subnet I'm just going to put these EC2 instances, and from there we are just going to configure target group as well as application load balancer. But don't worry, let's start first with the EC2 instances. This is my AWS console, and here in the search box, I'm just going to type EC2, click on the EC2, click on the launch instances over here. And here I'm just going to put the details for launching my instance. So I'm just going to put EC21 target group demo. So I'm just going to put this name so that I can identify my EC2 instances. So this is the first EC2 instance. I'm just gonna stick with Ubuntu as my base operating system. T3.micro, I'm just gonna stick with the basic instance type. Key pair, I'm just gonna create a key pair. So here I'm just gonna put a key pair name. So I'm just gonna put a demo target group keys. So I'm just gonna use the same key for both the EC2 instances. And remember, here I'm just creating two keys. Here you can see it's key pair. So it will generate private as well as public key. The public key will automatically be associated with EC2 instance, but the public key will be, private key will be with me. It will be downloaded locally. So always remember, the public key is always associated by default with our EC2 instance, and private key will always be with you on your local system. Okay, so I'll click on create key pair, and here you can see the private key has been downloaded onto my local machine, which is demo tg keys. That's the key name for my private key. And the public key, here you can see it has been associated with my EC2 instance. Okay, click on edit, and here I'm just going to work into my network setting. So here I have already created a VPC, which is AWS demo VPC. So I'm just going to select that particular VPC. And if I show you the diagram once again, then if I go further into this diagram, then this is the VPC I'm talking about. So this VPC I have already created, and if you don't know, I have already uploaded a chapter on how to set up a VPC, how to set up a subnet, public subnet, private subnet. So there you will get all the details on this VPC and subnet. But don't worry, this is the actual flow. So here, this is the VPC I'm choosing, which is ending with 11.0.0. This is the IP range, and then I'm just going to select the subnet. All right, so let's get back to our demo. So here the VPC part I have selected, the IP range which you can see 11.0.0, and the subnet. So here I'm just going to choose the public subnet. Okay, so now I have chosen the subnet, which you can see from here. So VPC selected, subnet selected, and then I'm just gonna choose the auto enable the public IP so that I can access the EC2 instances as well, just to test and verify. But in production, we generally keep this public IP disabled for security purpose. Okay, so now talking about the security group, so I'm just gonna enable the port 22 for SSH. I'm just gonna enable one more security group. And remember, I told you that in target group, we need to define a port where our services will be running. So here I'm just gonna enable the port 80 because I will be running my Apache service over there. So here I'm just going to choose the type, and here I'm just going to choose the type, which is HTTP, and the port is 80, and source type from anywhere, so that I can access this service from anywhere in the world. So I'm just going to stick with that one. Okay, and after that, I think everything looks good. And yeah, so in the advanced detail, I'm just going to paste the script for installing the EC2 instance. Here is my script for installing the Apache 2 onto my EC2 instance. So here, this is just going to update all the packages. Here it is going to install the Apache. Here it is going to update the index.html page of Apache, which we are going to access on a port 80. And after that, it is going to restart my Apache. So it is very simple. Okay, so I'm just going to click on launch instance over here. So this is my first EC2 instance, which is I'm launching. Let's launch one more instance. So it is still in pending state. So I'll start one more EC2 instance. So click on launch instances over here. So here I'll just copy the name so that both are in the similar name. Both are having the similar name. That's I just wanted to say. So click on launch instances over here. Paste the name, and here I'm just gonna put 2 for second EC2 instance. I'm just gonna stick with Ubuntu as my base operating system. T3.micro I'm just gonna use the same key which I have downloaded, which is demo tg keys, which is demo target group keys. Network setting, I'm just gonna choose the VPC, which is AWS demo VPC. The subnet, I'm just gonna use public subnet. And yeah, and then I'm just gonna enable the public IP, and after that SSH, I'm just gonna keep it open. I'm just gonna add one more security group, which is HTTP over here, and select source from anywhere, and that's it. And I'll just go to advanced detail, and here I'm just gonna put the script in the user data section. Sorry, I just need to copy it from my notepad. So I'm just going to copy this script over here, and it will install the Apache 2. And after that, I'm just going to click on launch instances. So it will take a couple of minutes. So I'll just refresh this page over here, And here you can see both the instances. So I'll be back once my Apache 2 service is up and running on both the EC2 instances. And we're just gonna first verify that service is up and running or not. Alright, so both the instances are up and running and my Apache 2 service is running on both the instances. So let's verify those services first of all on the first EC2 instance. So I'm just gonna click on this instance ID, copy the public IP address and open a new tab and hit enter. And here you can see this is the private IP of my EC2 instance, which you can verify from here, which is this one. And if you can see over here, if I put a port 80, then it is going to be the same. And here you can see, so port 80 is the default port for your EC2 instance where your service is running. Okay, so we have verified Apache service which is running on a port 80 on first EC2 instance. So let's close this one. Let's go to the another EC2 instance too. Just copy the public IP from there and go to the new tab and paste it over here. And here you can see the IP address which is ending with 1.231, which is 1.231, which you can see. So the Apache service is running properly onto both the EC2 instances. Let's take a look onto the diagram once again. So I'll just take a look over here. And here what we need to do now is we need to create this particular target group. And this target group, we are going to include the first EC2 instance as well as this second EC2 instance as well. All right. So let's go back to our AWS console. I'm just going to go over here. I'll close every tab, go to the EC2, click on the EC2, and here in the left navigation pane you will find a target group. So click on this target group over here, and here you can see I have not created any target group. So here we need to click on create target group, and here we need to specify what kind of a configuration you need for your target group. So I'm just going to choose instances, because as you can see onto the diagram, this target group will compose of instances. So here this is the instances, but target group is not only created for instances, but you can also create for IP addresses, lambda function, and even you can put the application load balancer inside the target group as well. So those are the applications of your target group. So these are the composition which you can create with your target group. All right, but anyway, we are just gonna go ahead. So here I'm just gonna put the name of the target group, and here I'm just creating the instances. Okay, so here I'm just gonna put the target group name. So I'm just gonna put demo target group for EC2. Okay, protocol, and here you can see the point which I was trying to specify in the beginning. So whenever we create a target group, we need to define the protocol. So here I'm just going to choose HTTP. So here I have chosen the HTTP, and since it's a demo and I have not set up the SSL certificate, so that's why I cannot use the HTTPS. But in case if you are using the secure communication and you have the SSL certificate, then you can go for HTTPS, but that needs to be enabled first. But anyway, keeping the thing simple, I'm just going to stick with HTTP over here. Second is the port. So I'm just going to use the port 80 because that's where my applications are running or service are running. All right. Now, important thing is the VPC. So if you take a look onto the diagram once again, so we are working in this VPC with the IP range this. So we need to specify the VPC of that target group. So I'm just going to choose the VPC, which is this one, which is AWS Demo VPC. And protocol version HTTP1. So here we have chosen the protocol HTTP, but here it needs a version. So I'm just going to stick with the basic one. You can of course go with the HTTP2 as well. Health check, since everything is running on HTTP, so I'm just going to stick with the health check HTTP over here. And after that, everything looks good. Let's go ahead and click on next. And now we need to include both the instances. So here you can see this instance and this instance. So I'm just going to choose both the instance to be included as a part of a target group. That's done. And I'll just click on include as pending below. So here you can see both the instances has been included. This is second and this is first, and then click on create target group over here. And here you can see our target group has been created. And after a couple of minutes, here you can see there is a healthy status, there is an unhealthy status, and there is an unused. So right now I have just created, so it is showing me unused, but after a couple of minutes, it should move to the healthy state. If it doesn't move, then there is a problem with your target group. One more thing, like this unused status will change when we create a load balancer. So don't worry if you only created a target group. So just wait till you create a load balancer, and after you create a load balancer, then check the status, then it should go to healthy. Otherwise there is something wrong with your setup. So now we need to create an application load balancer to verify the status or the health status of our target group and the EC2 instances. The next thing which we need to create, if you take a look onto the diagram over here, we need to create the application load balancer. So let's go back to our EC2 dashboard over here. So on the left navigation menu, you will find an option for a load balancer at the same place where our target groups were. So click on this load balancer over here. And here you can see there are no load balancers. So I'm just going to click on create a load balancer over here. And I'm just gonna stick with application load balancer, so that's okay. Let's click on create, and here I'm just gonna put the name. So I'm just gonna put the demo ALB for target group. Okay, so that's the name of my application load balancer. It is internet facing. IP address, so I'm just going to use IP4, and here again I need to choose the VPC. So if you take a look onto the diagram, then this application load balancer is present in this VPC. So I'm just going to choose the VPC, which is this one. I'm just going to choose both the region because my subnets are present in both the region, because public and private. And here you can see this is the subnet. So this is our public subnet, but there is one more subnet which I have created, which is our private subnet. So I need to select both of it, and after that, the selected subnet doesn't have a internet gateway. Yeah, that's fine because it's a private subnet. So don't worry about this error, but public subnet should have an internet gateway. I'm just going to show to you after this application load balancer where the internet gateway is. But anyway, so here I just need to check the security group. So here you can see this is the default security group which has been created. So we need to add a port 80 over here as well. So let's check if we have anything for port 80 which I have already created. If not, then I'm just going to create let's create a new security group over here. So here I'm just gonna put name, so security group for target group and ALB. So here I'm just gonna put allow port 80, and yeah, that should be it. I'm just gonna select the VPC, which is AWS demo inbound rule. Then I'm just gonna choose HTTP port 80 from anywhere. And outbound rule, I'm just going to keep everything open, then click on create security group. So a security group cannot begin with SG. All right, no problem. So I'm just going to put demo SG for target group and application load balancer, and then click on create. And now our security group has been created for port 80, and now this security group we need to attach it with our load balancer. So here you should here you can see the security group has been reflected over here. Okay, so select that one and go ahead. So protocol, again you need to keep the same protocols, which is HTTP, the port is 80, and here default action forward to. So here I'm just gonna choose the target group, which is demo target group EC2. Just select that one. So here I'm just talking about this part. So here you can see now here we are trying to link the application load balancer with our target group. All right, so that's been done. Let's go back, and after that we can just click on create load balancer. Just click on create load balancer, and the status is provisioning. So I'll be back once this status is green and it is up and running. All right, so here you can see in the detail section my load balancer has been provisioned and now it is in active state. So I will show you once again. So this is our application load balancer, and application load balancer, here you can see the listener rule which has been configured automatically, which I have been talking about in the beginning. And this listener configuration rule is responsible for forwarding the request to the target group, which is this one. So this is the target group. So if you click on, so here this is the target group which I was talking about, and here you can see the status or the health status of our EC2 instance has been changed from unused to healthy, and now both are healthy. And here you can see the EC2 instances which is inside my target group, and here you can add more than 2 or 3 instances inside your target group. Okay, so now that's been done. So let's verify whether our request is going via load balancer to our EC2 instances or not. So here I'm just going to copy the DNS name from here and go to new tab and paste over here. I'm just going to zoom a bit. So here you can see we are able to access our server. So this is our first server, which is 1.116. Let's refresh this and then let's see that request is forwarded to another server. So let's refresh once again. So here you can see our request has been routing properly on both the EC2 instances one by one. So that's how you create a load balancer which forwards your request to target group, and then target group it reaches to its end destination, which is our EC2 instances. So that's how we accomplish this application load balancer, target group, and then attaching the resources to the target group. The one thing which I promised to show you is the internet gateway. So I will just show you internet gateway. So in the search box, go to VPC, click on VPC. And here from the drop down, just select the VPC, which is this one, and then click on subnets. And here you can see the public subnet and the private subnet. And I told you that our internet gateway is associated with our public subnet. So click on this, and here you will find an internet gateway entry, which is present over here. Here you can see in the route table. So that's the internet gateway which I have associated with my public subnet. So what I'm trying to say is that this is how you set up your application load balancer along with the target group. So this is how the functioning of our target group along with the EC2 instances and along with our application load balancer works together.